at a break from U of M. It says in your book you applied for a job with your brother Phil at a ranch.
Out in Montana, yes.
How did that work out?
That was great. Actually, I got the job. I got the job through a friend that I had met at the cheese plant working in Watkins. And I think my dad thought it would be a good idea if my brother could have that experience also, because I was likely not to be on a farm as an adult, earning a living, and he would be on a farm. He was destined maybe to take over the family farm. Normally, in normal situations, the oldest son probably typically has first dibs on taking over the farm. But since I had polio and wasn't going to be a farmer, and I made it clear that I didn't want to do that, my dad, I think, figured that, okay, the second son, we'll groom him to take over this farm. So when he found out that I was going out to Montana, and it would only be for 8 weeks at the most, 6 weeks probably, he could get along without my brother on the farm for 6 weeks, but he'd have that experience in Montana on a big ranch. And so he asked, well, could you ask maybe if Steve, my brother Phil could come along. So I actually wrote again out there, and they said, yeah, bring him along. They were glad to get Minnesota boys that could drive tractors.
When you were done with that job, was it harder to quit the U of M when you returned?
Yeah, the last quarter was going kind of traumatic. When I quit the university, I had 2 part-time jobs, and so I wasn't getting enough sleep, and I was cutting classes. And once you start doing poorly in some classes, then you cut more classes even, so it gets worse. And you get kind of in a downward spiral, I think. So it was kind of a downer. I had a couple of years of good classes and good experience, but all of a sudden, when I guess I was trying to support myself. Somehow I got in a rut thinking I had to go to school full time. I had to get 15 credits. Well, and with 15 credits, I needed a certain amount of money, and to get that money, I had to do 2 part-time jobs. If I had just backed off and made myself a part-time student, I could have gotten by with 1 part-time job and probably would have done real well, and maybe could have continued. But somehow I was thinking I had to be a full-time student, and then to make enough money, I had to have 2 part-time jobs, and I kind of got myself all tangled up.
After that, at one point, you decided to apply for the St. Cloud State College.
Mm-hmm.
What made you decide to do that?
It was close to home. I was living at home. After I quit at the university, I stayed home for close to a year, trying to think about what I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it. I've got a couple of years of college under my belt already. I decided, since St. Cloud was only 23 miles away, I kind of figured out that I could live at home and drive to St. Cloud. All I'd have to pay is tuition. I wouldn't have to pay board and room and dorm fees and all that kind of stuff. And then Dad, when I started hinting at maybe that's what I'd like to do, Dad came up with a deal. He says, if you get good grades and make progress toward graduation, you won't even have to come out in the evening and help with chores. We had hired 1 or 2 town kids to come out to the farm just in the evening, help with evening chores, and they could stay overnight even and go to school in the morning directly from the farm. There's a lot of light work connected with farming, and they could do a lot of this, throwing down hay, carrying things, carrying feed, feeding the calves, a lot of things they could do. But he would continue hiring them, and he had been hiring them while I was at the university, and my brother was in the Army. So they were coming out there regularly anyway. So but the year I was home, he was hiring them less. But if I went to school and was doing good in school, I'm out of the obligation of helping with chores, and he would continue getting these kids from town that he hired and get by that way. So that was great for me. It was getting out of chores. So basically, I'm living on a farm eating and sleeping, home cooking, but driving to school, I didn't have to worry about social life at school. I did not, in fact, get involved in any social life at St. Cloud. I did not take part in any I didn't go to any games. I didn't go to any dances. I didn't go to anything. I just went to class. At the end of classes, drove back home again.
Just for your scholarship?
Just for the scholarship.
Okay.
What it amounts to is, I did, though, take up flying while I was at St. Cloud. That was an activity on the side, outside of classes. But I even took some flying-related classes. So I would say, yeah, definitely that was an extracurricular activity, taking up flying lessons. Where some kid maybe played football, I'd learn how to fly. So.
Yeah. Aviation was always a passion of yours?
Yes, always a passion.
Okay.
And then by the time I got through college and got close to graduating, and I'm graduating in math and physics, and a lot of that applies to flying also. Flying is a physics, study in physics, really, what keeps an airplane up, you know.
Yes, it is.
So I found that very interesting. It kind of reinforced some of the things I was studying and helped me understand how to control an airplane and get comfortable with it, and I enjoyed that, yes.
While you were at that college, did it become sort of a dream then to become a teacher?
Yes. After about 1 year there, less than a year, I realized that I had to decide, if I want to go into teaching, I had to make that decision now. In other words, before the next quarter, I had to decide, do I want to go into teaching or not? And so I did spend a lot of time thinking about that. And I knew a couple other kids. I had met a couple other students already at St. Cloud that were going into education. I had a grandfather that was a teacher all his life. I had a couple teachers I liked, and I actually liked school, surprisingly. Some classes, a lot of classes I liked. I loved libraries. So I was comfortable with that environment, and I decided, I think I'll be a teacher. And once I decided that, then I had to take certain classes, and I had to go student teaching, and that kind of set my curriculum for the next year.
How did you meet, or should I say, how did you know that Donna was the one for you?
How did I know she was the one for me? Boy, I don't know how you know that. That's tough. How do you know? I think I was just ready. I was ready for somebody to be the right one, and I think maybe looking back on it, she was ready also for somebody to be the right one. And since we both were kind of looking, I suppose, for the right one, we're both teachers. We're in the same building. I could observe her. I interacted with her and became friends in the lounge and in social activities that the teachers did. So I got to know her, and I thought she was pretty nice. And finally, I think by spring, we just decided we're for each other.
That's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And did the wedding go well?
No, just kidding. Yes, sure, it went well. It was a very nice wedding, and it was in a church in Le Center, Minnesota.
Okay.
And every time we drive by Le Center, Minnesota, which is not far from where she grew up, I always try to pretend that I can't remember what's special about this town. There's something I remember about this town. And she tells me, this is where we got married. Oh. So I tease her with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of special, I suppose.
The last question for you is, comparing your life from then to now, how happy are you with your life right now?
I'm right up. Let's make a scale. The most depressed I was ever at as a kid is 0, and the happiest I could imagine somebody being is at 100. I would say I'm at about 98, 99 right now. I would not. In fact, I've often said I would not want to go back to any earlier age, not 1 year, not 10 years, not 30 years. I would not go back to any earlier age the way I was then.
Yeah.
knowing what I knew then. If I could go back to high school knowing what I know now, or college knowing what I know now, I'd do it in an instant. I really feel great. I'm doing what I want to do. I'm working on another book. I have a very adequate, comfortable retirement, and I get to do a lot of things. So I'm enjoying life, and life. I think of life as being good to me, and I still feel like the lucky one.
And that is very good. And I just thought of a bonus question for you. There was rumors that you are writing a new book.
Yes, I am working on a new book. Do you want me to just tell you in a nutshell? It's a book about science, reason, faith, religion, and baseball. And it's a complicated topic. It's an important topic. It's a topic that, in fact, the whole world, in fact, spends a lot of time on arguing about faith versus science, for example. And since I've got some experience in both of those worlds, I think I have something I could try to add to clarify that.
That's very cool.
I expect within the next 6 months I should be finished, and it'll go to editing, and then by the time it'll take another 6 months to go through that whole process. So you won't see the book for a year yet.
Well, okay. That is about it. Thank you for your time, and I would just like to say that it has been a great opportunity to get to know you, and this is definitely one of the best books I have ever read, and I hope that everybody here enjoys this book as well.
Well, I sure enjoyed telling it, and I enjoyed talking with you about it. So it's been a great experience to have somebody like you interested in talking about it, because even talking about it for me is very therapeutic, and so I want to thank you also.
Of course, and thank you. Welcome back, everybody. My name is John Fredrickson. As you just saw, the interview of Richard Mouse, the author of The Lucky One. He is a great man and a good friend. I hope you enjoyed this interview. It is a great story for all to read. And I hope all of you can learn something from this book, as I have, as it describes battles with polio and depression, as I have dealt with depression as well. So I hope you all learned something, and I hope you all have a great day, and thank you for watching this interview of Richard Mouse, the author of The Lucky One.